Hello, all you feral children out there, and welcome to Undeclared Bajor.
If you're a feral child using a computer or smart device, listen to this podcast. I'm impressed.
Yeah. We make no assumptions, okay? But this is Undeclared Bajor, the best Star Trek DS9 discussion podcast in the universe.
The best one.
Very best. You cannot challenge it. It's just impossible.
Yeah, so don't try.
Yeah. Anyway, my name is Fletcher. About to say hello is Data.
Mellow greetings.
Very good, very good. Today we're going to discuss Star Trek DS9 Season 6, Episode 24, Time's Orphan. Alternate title, The O'Brien Curse, The Next Generation.
I mean, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. We will be discussing spoilers up through this episode, but not after this episode. So it's safe to watch along with us if this is your first experience with Star Trek DS9. But we occasionally spoil stuff that is not Star Trek DS9, so, watch out for that. I mean, you should you should always be aware of spoilers, but I just watched this show called Sugar on Apple TV Plus.
Okay.
It's about a private detective named Sugar.
Oh, so it's not about like how sugar is made or something. Okay.
No. I'm sure there is like a series about that, but that's not what I watched.
Gotcha.
It's got Colin Farrell. He plays a private detective named Sugar. And
all right.
It turns out we learn like in episode 6, like 3/4 of the way through the season, Sugar is an alien.
Oh, I thought you were going to say alias, and I was like, well, yeah, obviously. But alien. Okay, yeah, that's all right.
Not clear if Sugar is his real alien name or not.
I certainly hope so. I hope that, like, somehow all of the aliens on that planet are named after, like, spices and things that we use in our cooking.
Oh, yeah. Very interesting show. I recommend it, even if I just spoiled it for you. I think you'll be happier knowing the spoiler going in, honestly. Because when I got there, I was like, oh, I guess he's an alien. Okay. I kind of would have preferred for him not to be an alien, but that adds an interesting wrinkle to this kind of gritty, hard-boiled detective series. I wonder if they were trying to do a Martian Manhunter type series, and then they couldn't get the rights to it or something.
Well, I just assume that we're Resident Alien was so successful that they're like, how do we incorporate like this concept into other genres?
Oh, yeah. But interesting show. I never heard of it before, and I was just flipping through Apple TV Plus, and there it was. So, anyway, back to what we were talking about. Time's Orphan originally aired May 20th, 1998. It was written by Bradley Thompson and David Weddle, story by Joe Minoski, and directed by Alan Craker.
So, Joe Minoski is a name that hasn't come up too much lately.
Yeah, maybe lately. I feel like we've seen him a few times, though, right?
Yeah, but the reason that he gets the story credit here is that he conceived the idea of this episode on Star Trek The Next Generation as a way to write Alexander out of the show.
Ah.
He says, it was a way to get rid of Alexander, who... Renee Echevarria explains that Minoski came up with it as a way to get rid of Alexander, who he really disliked. And so it's like, Worf and Alexander go on a hunting trip. Alexander falls through a time portal and shows up 15 years older as an embittered Klingon warrior who hates his father for abandoning him.
Huh.
Michael Piller, on the other hand, would not greenlight the episode because he did not like the idea of killing off that character, because Alexander was Michael Piller's mother's favorite character, Echevarria says.
Wow.
The idea of an older Alexander did show up growing out of that in the episode of Next Generation called Firstborn, though.
But anyway, Sarah Clofton is not in this episode, but Colm Meaney is.
Yep, he's back.
Yep, he's done filming Mystery Alaska, I guess. And he's got a whole episode to himself, kind of.
Kind of, yeah.
So the Chief and Keiko are snug in bed when Molly barges in and says, "Wake up, it's time for the picnic." Apparently, the chief has called his family back to the station as his concern for their safety has given way to his horniness.
Well, it does seem like, given that this is still like the forefront of the war, that's not the best idea. Especially when he later promises, like, we will never be separated again.
Right? I don't care how dangerous it is.
Yeah.
So get ready for lots more O'Brien family adventures.
Yep.
It's nothing but the O'Briens from this point forward. Today they're going to take a nice family outing to Galana. You know, Galana. They go there all the time. Of course you've heard of it. Where is it? Is it close to Bajor? Who knows?
I mean, later we find out there's Bajoran colonists there, so I assume it must be.
Probably. Yeah.
Let's see if there's any additional information about it in...
Is it like the Bajor equivalent of Mars, or...
Golana was an inhabited planet in the Alpha Quadrant and home of a Bajoran colony since the beginning of the 24th century. Nothing useful in there. According to the script, the planet's name was pronounced Golana. It was simply described as an Earth-like planet. Yep, that's all we got.
Okay, so all the lore we know about Galana is from this episode.
Yeah. Oh wait, there's some memory beta stuff about it though. Let's see.
Oh, good.
The colonization of Galana was undertaken by Jas Holza's clan. In 2318, Minister Jazz expressed interest in the Cardassian proposal for the Bajorans to be given technology to increase the speed of their starships, remarking that it would bring Golana much closer to Bajor and benefit its inhabitants. When the Bajorans were colonizing Galana, the ruins interfered with the construction of a water system. All right.
So that happened in 2318?
Yeah, that's what this says.
Like during the Cardassian occupation?
Was 2318
Okay.
during the... I don't remember what year it is now.
It's like 2370 or something like that.
Oh, maybe that was right before... Like, the Cardassians were there for 50 years?
I thought they were there for 70 years.
Oh, maybe you're right.
But...
Okay, now we're going to have to look up when the Cardassian occupation begins. But...
We are going to get to the bottom of this. We are not continuing the episode until we figure this out.
I love that there's no other mention of the ruins here, but it's like... But when the Bajorans were colonizing this planet, the ruins interfered with the construction of a water system. It's from a Next Generation novel called Losing the Peace. So... I like this. Galana had a disastrous year due to storms and crop failures, resulting in many colonists leaving. Jazz's venture on Galana had failed by 2323, and the colony was abandoned.
In the year 2323.
Okay, and it is 2372 currently when the O'Briens, this is 2374. It was 2372 or 3 when they visited previously. Got it, okay.
Okay.
So when did the Cardassian occupation of Bajor begin? That began in 2328.
Oh, okay.
To 2369. So yeah, it would have been like 10 years after he was negotiating with them, with the Cardassians, for better starship warp drives.
So it was so the colony was founded in 18? Okay, and the occupation didn't start till 10 years later.
Right.
And the occupation only lasted for 41 years.
Till 69, so yeah, I guess so.
Okay. Well, I guess it technically all checks out then.
Glad we sorted that out.
I swear I heard 70 years somewhere, but maybe
somebody was exaggerating. You know how those Bajorans are.
True. So, as the family gets ready to leave for the picnic, Molly asks Keiko for help putting on an incredibly easy to put on looking bracelet. But this is important for later, so...
Sorry, we have to take a step back because that was in memory beta. Now I'm looking at memory alpha, and it says the occupation began in 2319 and went to 2369. So that would have been 50 years.
Okay.
And it would have started 1 year after that colony was founded.
Maybe the Cardassians are like, whoa, what are you doing colonizing? Like, we're going to colonize you now, if this is what you're going to be doing.
Okay, sorry, bracelet, right.
Okay, so yeah, Keiko puts on Molly's bracelet. So pay attention to this bracelet. And then Molly also makes a point of wearing her blue jumper, which is not important for later. Kiriyoshi the baby and Loopy the doll are also coming along, but not Chester the cat.
Yeah, and I love the moment where it's like, oh no, we don't want him to get lost. And Keiko's like, well, actually. You watch this interaction, like the look O'Brien gives her is like, hey, why are you talking shit about my cat? Like, it's a fun little moment of, you find out that Keiko secretly hates the cat, and O'Brien is not okay with it.
I think Keiko and I are kindred spirits. This looks like a good place for a picnic. Right next to this mysterious glowing hole in the ground with ominous sci-fi noises coming out of it.
Sure.
Says Miles, presumably. As they sit there, Molly talks about her dream of becoming an exobologist, and then gets up to do some cartwheels. Miles and Keiko watch the cartwheels for 3 seconds, then immediately stop paying attention. That is...
as you do.
Yeah.
When you're on a strange planet.
Until they hear Molly screaming.
It's like, didn't we learn from that time when, like, Troy's little brother or sister, it was a sister, died, like, horribly because her parents stopped paying attention to her for 5 seconds?
No.
Star Trek really likes to drive that home, that parents need to constantly pay attention to their children.
On a picnic with your family on a strange planet? Don't worry about it. They follow the screams to a hole where they find Molly hanging off a ledge over a big nether portal looking thing. Miles tries to grab Molly to pull her up, but she slips and falls into the portal, which immediately shuts off. Molly O'Brien is dead, probably.
She really should have known better than to hang off of that. It is kind of nether portal-y. You're not wrong.
She was like, "Oh, I'm gonna get myself a nether rod and do some enchanting."
Apparently, the girl who plays Molly is quoted in here as saying that, like, this was a lot of fun because she had to be in like a harness for the scene of falling into the portal, and she said that was awesome to film because I got to swing around in front of this green screen. It was like my own little roller coaster.
I bet a kid would really enjoy that.
But also, during this, all of the outdoor scenes are filmed at Malibu Creek, which she says is one of her favorite places to hike and explore, and her family used to go there all the time. So, like, this was a fun filming thing for her.
Oh, nice.
But also, during this segment, there's a couple of different versions of the story, but basically, they're out here and they're filming, the thing with the whole family on the blanket and stuff. And Rosalind Chow, like, as she's giving her dialogue, notes that, like, the crew is whispering. And apparently this is an unheard of occurrence. Like, the crew does not do something like that while dialogue is being given.
Oh.
And so, like, she tried to just, ignore it, be professional, stay in the scene. And after the cut, which actually, according to Steve Oster, Alan was unaware of what was happening and was so concentrating on the performances he didn't even call cut. But Steve Oster comes up and he's like, "Hey, I need you guys to, like, walk towards me slowly." And it turns out there was, like, a large rattlesnake, like, heading right for them, about to head through the shot.
Oh man.
And so that was what the crew was whispering about, like, "Uh-oh, there's, like, a snake going towards them." And they're like, "We didn't want to freak the little kids out,
sure,
or, make things worse somehow. So we tried to, like, play it cool." And according to Oster, he's like, he had them all calmly walk towards him, which they did. And then the snake just, like, made its way through the shot. He says, closely followed by a park ranger.
Was the park ranger, like, tailing the snake or something?
Right. That's what it makes it sound like there. In the actress, what's her name? I think it's Hannah, who plays Molly. Yeah, Hannah. In her version, she was like, there was a rattlesnake in the bushes next to where we were filming, so we had to take, like, a break until park rangers could come out and remove the snake. Which, that one actually feels more accurate to me. But
I like the version where the park ranger is like, "I think the snake has been dealing drugs."
Yeah, he's just, I got my eye on him.
We gotta follow him back to his supplier. It's like Ranger, what's his face from Yogi?
Oh, what is that guy?
Ranger Smith or something like that.
It's Ranger Smith. Yep.
Nice. So yeah, Molly O'Brien is dead. The Defiant shows up with the rest of the crew to help look for Molly. Dax tricords the thing Molly fell into, hikes up her pants and says, "Yep, looks like we got some kind of time portal. Sent Molly back in time 300 years, I reckon." So, run-of-the-mill time portal situation. Nothing fascinating or mysterious about this discovery.
No, I mean, this is an everyday thing, quite honestly.
Just gotta find a way to turn it back on and go get Molly back.
At least it's not one of those Guardians of Forever that's, like a sentient time portal. That's just annoying.
Yeah, that'd be a huge pain.
So the writers considered establishing that the time portal was Iconian in origin, but eventually decided, let's not focus too much on, the hows of this situation. Let's just go with it.
Yeah, let's not focus too much on the time portal at all, or that might quickly become the most interesting part of the episode.
Can't have that.
Yeah, although I kind of would prefer it to be like an Iconian gateway or something, just so to have some kind of connection or explanation of what's going on. But a piece of equipment Miles is working on explodes, and baby Yoshi starts crying. The chief speculates it might be too cold in this cave for the baby. Or maybe the loud explosions are scaring him. Who knows?
Yeah, one of those things, probably.
Keiko doesn't want to leave the search for Molly, so Kira takes Yoshi back up to the Defiant. She starts playing with him in front of Odo and says she might want to have a baby of her own someday. Hint, hint.
I'm like, I don't... are you hinting that Odo would be the father? Because I'm not sure that's possible.
Right. Yeah, Odo isn't ready to have that conversation, probably for several different reasons. So he changes the subject. So I am a being of living goo. I do not have reproductive organs or fluid.
Yeah, there's all sorts of awkward directions that conversation can
Yes,
take. It's best to breeze past.
I felt like you understood this about me. Maybe we need to have a talk. But yeah, so Odo talked to some archaeologists about who could have built that time portal, and they said it was probably that time portal civilization that used to live on the planet. They disappeared 2,000 years ago, though. So they probably all went back in time.
Or forward in time. Who knows?
Yeah. That's my best guess. Anyway, nobody lived on the planet 300 years ago, so Molly's all by herself. If she hasn't been immediately eaten by a wolf or something.
Which almost certainly would happen, unless there are none of those, I guess.
Right. Luckily, the chief thinks he found a way to reach back in time to grab Molly as soon as she arrives. So she'll just be like Einstein at the beginning of Back to the Future.
Basically, I like the note in here, a two-part note. First, the console that Chief O'Brien is using to operate the time portal is a reuse of the console he and Bashir used to deactivate the Harvester bioweapons in that episode Armageddon game.
Ah.
Second part of note, it also bears a vague similarity to the TARDIS console from Doctor Who, which I was like, who put that in there?
Yeah.
That's not, wiki-worthy.
Some Doctor Who person just couldn't resist.
Yeah. Oh, also, it says, I assume it must be this scene, I don't remember. It says, in one scene, after a piece of equipment explodes, Chief O'Brien shouts, "Bollocks!" This is an Irish-British expletive referring to testicles. When the episode was first screened by the BBC in the UK, the word was removed. However, when RTE screened the episode in Ireland, it was left on the soundtrack. Sci-Fi also cut the word when rebroadcasting to the UK in 2014. So, if you were if you live over there, you only heard the word if you were in Ireland.
Interesting. I wonder what the people in Northern Ireland heard.
It's a good question.
So, yeah, anyway, Keiko is worried, and then she and Miles get a nice scene of worried parent acting.
As you do.
Yeah. This is a very, Miles and Keiko acting showcase episode.
I mean, yeah, they're pretty much other than the future Molly, they're like the two main focuses of the episode. So.
Right. But then Dax calls and says she's got everything working and they're ready to send Molly back to the future.
At least bring Molly back to the future. It's not a send.
Everything depends on your point of view. From my point of view, the Jedi are evil.
Right, okay.
They get the portal open and everything is set up. Dr. Bashir gets a DNA lock on Molly, but before they can push the button, The portal starts gurgling. They hurry up and energize. But they're surprised when instead of a little girl, a grown woman appears on the transporter pad. She has wild hair, crude-looking animal skin garments, and fistfuls of wild berries.
So we know there must be some, large enough animals to kill and skin.
True.
That live there. Unless she, made it from her own hair somehow. I don't think that's, it's a little too well woven for that.
She would have to, construct some kind of loom or something to do that, wouldn't she?
Yeah, exactly.
But because we're a TV-savvy audience who's seen lots of Star Trek, we already know what's going on. But we'll go ahead and indulge the writers while they pay off their little bracelet thing they set up earlier. So, yes, very good. Good visual storytelling.
So, apparently, you had that Joe Menosky story from The Next Generation, right?
Uh-huh.
Renee Echevarria has, I guess, been championing this story for most of Deep Space Nine, pitching it let's do that story, but with Molly instead of Alexander. And Ira Stephen Bear is always nope, we're not doing that. And then finally, as the 6th season is drawing to a close, he's okay, I guess it's been a long time since we did a real sci-fi episode, and we need to do another O'Brien show, and we need to do something that's more or less a bottle show. So this kind of ticks all of those boxes. We'll do that.
Oh yeah, I guess this is kind of an end of season budget adjustment episode.
I mean, yeah, but also in the first draft of this script that Brett Thompson and Weddle did, Molly spends 10 years in another culture where she's raised in a farming community by people who treat her really well.
Uh-huh.
So when she comes back to Deep Space Nine, she's shy and confused, but mostly just resentful at her parents. And Thompson explains it came across as if she'd been sent to a bad summer school. And then Echevarria says it was full of all this teen angst emotion stuff, and she sounded so damned American. So they decided not to go that way.
Also, that is kind of the plot of Cardassians, so.
I mean, yeah, I guess so.
And also they kind of did that on Next Gen, also. In the episode where that kid was raised by that alien civilization and then didn't want to go back to his parents.
Yeah.
This is a well they have drunk from multiple times already. So Miles approaches grown-up Molly, but she panics and bites him. So Dr. Bashir hyposprays her. He was ready to go with that hypospray. Back in the Defiant sickbay, Dr. Bashir confirms that this is Molly, and now she's 18 years old. So if she tells you something happened, it was all totally legal.
I mean, we know that Bashir and his patients, so...
Oh, yeah. Medical ethics, what's that?
We've grown beyond that in the future.
Right. Keiko asks if they can open the portal again and zap out the younger Molly, the not crazy bitey one. And Dr. Bashir, ever the champion of ethics, says, no, you can't do that, because then this Molly would stop existing. And we have a date later.
See, this is the first moment in the episode where I'm just really what? I get a perspective on this. Oh, we can't just Tuvix this Molly.
Uh-huh.
That wouldn't be cool. But listen, there was always at least a decent chance that this Molly was going to exist once young Molly went into the past.
Uh-huh.
If the plan had worked and you retrieved young Molly immediately after she went in, this Molly would still have existed and then ceased to exist. You just would never have met her. But now that you've met her, you're oh, well, no, we can't do that now.
Right.
That it doesn't make any sense. And it's also the argument is she's been horribly traumatized for 10 years. We can't make her lose that.
Right. Yeah. So, that's pretty much exactly all the points I was about to make. Theoretically, didn't she live out an entire lifetime that we already erased?
Yeah.
No, we're just going to go with this. So, okie doke. And yeah, it's okay, yeah, you're right. It would be wrong to deny this Molly her 10 years of wonderful memories growing up alone in the wilderness. Long, terrifying nights spent huddled in a cold cave with no fire, listening to the predators howling outside, beginning every day not knowing if you're going to find any food to eat. Who are we to take that from her?
Just...
Bashir further explains that Molly has lost all her language skills due to having no human contact during those 10 crucial years of brain development. And she's probably so traumatized she doesn't remember them. So we're doing the right thing here.
Yeah, apparently Thompson and Weddle talked to a bunch of psychologists and clinical social workers to figure out what kind of behavior feral child Molly would be exhibiting here. And so that is where several of the qualities she has come from, including her loss of linguistic skills and her tendency to anthropomorphize objects such as trees and rocks. Which is based on an innate need, especially in children, for company and companionship. Both of those, company and companionship.
Right. I mean, there are, I think, several real-world cases of this happening, aren't there? Where, I think there was one in the 1800s in Germany, and I think maybe there was another one where, these kids came back and they just, because during these crucial years they didn't have anybody to talk to, they were never able to learn language after that. But not to worry, Julian called ahead to Deep Space Nine and had Captain Sisko set up a safe space for her in the cargo bay. By which I mean we put a tree in there.
I mean, that fixes everything.
So yeah, I'm just imagining, you remember Conan O'Brien's prop guy? It's just cargo bay, tree, bam, safe space. But anyway, it's B story time. Everybody's favorite time.
Well, apparently the episode didn't originally have a B story when they shot it or when they filmed it. When they wrote the script,
right,
or even when they filmed it. And but when they finished everything, the A story was running 9 minutes short.
Huh. And
so they're like, "Oh crap, we need to come up with 9 more minutes." Well, and what they came up with, Ira Stephen Bear was actually super happy with. He felt that it had a great level of poignancy.
Poignancy. Okay.
That's what he says.
So here's this incredibly poignant B story that they came up with at the last minute, apparently.
Yeah, I like the other quote. We realized that whatever juice we were going to get out of the Worf-Jadzia relationship, we'd better get out of it now.
Oh, I wonder what that means.
I just he's like, we got to juice it. Squeeze that juice.
Yep. Some of the fruit might not have renewed their contract. So, Worf comes home to find Dax babysitting Kira Yoshi. Worf seems delighted, but he thought Dax was going to be scanning a comet tonight. Dax says, I'll watch the baby instead. And then Worf says, well, let me watch the baby, and you can go scan the comet. And then Jadzia is like, nah, I'll stay and watch the baby. And then Worf is like, are you kidding me? All you've been talking about for weeks is this freaking comet. Let me watch the baby. Well, you kind of suck with babies, though. Or I assume you do. You're a Klingon.
Ouch.
Worf says, that's not fair. I raised Alexander. And then it's like, well, that's your success story, huh?
I mean, there's all sorts of reasons why that I wouldn't have even brought that up, quite honestly.
That's the persuasive example you're going to bring up right now. Okay. Where is Alexander, by the way?
He could have been like, I delivered Molly. I feel like that would have had more juice than the Alexander thing.
Right. Not the first place I would have gone, but Worf picks up Yoshi, much to Yoshi's displeasure, and insists that Dax go look at her comet, so she leaves. So apparently she's like, I guess I'll just go look at the comet right now. Molly wakes up from her tranking to find that she's lying on a nice tuft of grass next to a nice rock. And it takes her a surprisingly long time to realize she's in a cargo bay with a little bit of landscaping in it.
It's really not much. They didn't even cover the whole floor with grass or anything. It's just 2 feet away from her, there's cargo bay floor.
Right.
And then there's crates stacked in the background.
I was wondering how they got that tree in the cargo bay. Did they just have a big prop tree they brought in there? Or did they build a cargo bay set around a tree outside?
Maybe it was you remember that time that Jadzia and Worf were going through the jungle and they built the whole fake jungle that rotated on a big thing so that it would always look different. Maybe they just took a piece of that and brought it in.
Maybe. So Molly's parents are there to greet her, but she's scared and climbs up into the tree. So the chief lures her back down with some melon. Molly crouches down real low and looks up at them, which Miles interprets as her trying to remember them the way they looked to her when she was a little girl.
Hopefully it's not like a one of those crouching before she like leaps and attacks.
Right? You can never tell with this Molly. Then Keiko pulls out Loopy the doll, which Molly tentatively takes, seeming to remember it. Next, they try an exercise where they roll a ball back and forth. But every time they roll the ball to Molly, she runs off with it and hides it in her growing stash. After this has happened apparently like 10 times, Miles has the idea to tell her to give the ball back after he passes it to her. And this works, although she almost panics and steals the ball again. She's almost like, Ugh! And then she's like, no, I better give the ball back.
She's got to save up those balls. You never know when you might need one.
And I like that he came in with just a huge bag of balls.
I like to imagine that, like, at first there was one ball, and they lost it, and then he tried one again, and they lost it, and it was like, okay, I'm just going to bring it back.
Right? I'm going to go to the industrial replicator and get the biggest bag I can get.
Just, computer, I need a bag of balls. It's like, please be more specific. Oh, crap. My Alexa is not trying to provide that.
Googling.
Computer,
sack
stop.
balls. Google image searching ball sack.
Probably.
Meanwhile, Worf is having trouble getting Yoshi to go to sleep. He tried everything he could think of, but nothing worked. Dax offers to give it a try, but Worf refuses. He is a Klingon warrior. If he can kill dudes twice his size and win the heart of the magnificent Jadzia Dax, he can put a baby to sleep. Dax asks why this is important to him, and he says, it's not important to me. It's important to you. I can tell you're judging me on my parenting skills to see if I'm worthy of fathering a child with you. And Dax is like, okay, whatever. I can tell there's just some Worf stuff going on right now. And then she goes back to bed.
Yeah, see, that's how I felt also. It's just like, it's Worf, he's Worfing it up. Like, and then at the end she was like, okay, you got me. I kind of was. I was like, wait, what?
I don't think she really was. I think she was just kind of humoring him. I think she's just, they've been in a relationship long enough that she just kind of knows when she needs to go into like Worf placating mode for a while. And she's fine with it. It's all part of being married to Worf. Back in the cargo bay with a tree, Keiko shows up to find Miles sleeping on a couch and Molly sleeping in the tree.
Good thing they replicated a couch for the cargo bay also.
Sure. They couldn't put a cot in there or anything. They just brought a couch. It's like, should we like make a bed or something for Molly to sleep in? It's like, no, she'll sleep in the tree. Put a pillow on that grass. She likes that. Keiko sits down and starts brushing her hair, and this lures Molly out of the tree because I guess Molly also wants to brush her hair. So, progress?
Yeah, sure.
Later, Miles fills Dr. Bashir in on Molly's progress, saying she seems to be becoming more and more of her own self. She even drew a picture. And then I like the exchange where Bashir is like, she's anthropomorphized the landscape. And then O'Brien, possibly not knowing what that means, says, yeah, she likes to draw.
Yeah, it is funny that Bashir points out a thing that it's hard to tell if he thinks it's concerning or what, but he like takes the time to call it out, and O'Brien's just like, yeah, she's crazy. What are you going to do?
Molly has even started eating with a spoon, but Julian warns Miles that if they push Molly too hard, she may relapse. They show up at the O'Brien's quarters to find Worf playing with a rattle in front of Yoshi and going like, gung, 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 and making similar Klingon-sounding baby noises. Worf clarifies that he was instructing Yoshi in Hek Dup, traditional Klingon hand-eye coordination exercises for babies, designed to, I guess, make them good sword fighters.
Yeah, you gotta start that shit early.
Totally. Worf assures them that Yoshi was acquitting himself well, then walks out, almost taking the rattle with him. Later, the chief shows up to the cargo bay with a tree in it, where Molly is spazzing out, running around all over the place, saying, Molly home, over and over again, kind of like E.T. So they take her back to their quarters. Molly looks out the window at the starry stars, and seems at peace for a little bit. Then they take her to her room where she takes a jacket or something out of her closet and just starts tearing it up.
See, there's a moment as we're panning through her room where Chester the cat is there again, and he's like lounging on a dollhouse. And the wiki points out that first, when we get to the end of the episode, this is the second time on the show that someone has been erased from time as a result of their past being altered in order to save an individual.
Uh-huh.
It also happened in Children of Time.
Yes.
However, also in Children of Time, O'Brien mentions he's building a dollhouse for Molly, and in this episode, Chester is lounging on the roof of the dollhouse in Molly's room. So there's multiple connections between these episodes.
I mean, yeah, Children of Time, Orphan of Time. I guess Time died, and now the Children of Time are orphans, is what I'm picking up from these titles. But we can talk about that later, I
That's
guess.
messed up.
So yeah, she's mad. She's tearing up the clothes. She finds a picture of them on vacation on the planet and points to it. And they realize she wants to go back there. So they take her to a holosuite and run a grassy planet program. She doesn't seem to know the difference and gets very excited and starts doing cartwheels. But they are soon interrupted when Quark shows up with 2 Klingons who have a reservation. And they insist on having their turn. Miles ends the holosuite program and Molly gets super upset. As they try to leave the bar, Molly gets really agitated and starts wrecking shit up. She's pushing people down, flipping tables, smashing things. A well-meaning seeming alien steps in and tries to stop her, but Molly grabs a bottle and stabs him.
Dude, she stabs him good.
Oh yeah.
With this broken bottle.
She, I mean, this is just not making me feel good about what her life was like.
Right?
On the planet. But, what's that? Is it one of those Glorgo monsters?
I learned bar fighting when I was growing up on this planet.
Odo shows up with a deputy who has a phaser, luckily. So, remember, Odo doesn't carry guns. So
he doesn't like guns, yeah.
He has to have a guy with him to do that, which I kind of feel like is cheating, but whatever.
I mean, yeah, it's like you're not philosophically opposed to guns if you're happy to tell someone else to do it. But, it's harder for him to shapeshift around.
It's like Batman being like, hey, Punisher, come with me.
If you got a big-ass gun on you, then how are you going to, shapeshift and squeeze through a vent or whatever, Sure.
Yeah, it's probably not healthy to be holding a gun inside you, like, when you're in goo form.
Yeah, I didn't even think of it like that. That's a good point.
But yeah, they stun Molly. Odo, Sisko, and O'Brien meet in the captain's office, where Odo says that the guy who got stabbed insists on pressing charges.
I mean, fair.
Yeah. You know what? That was quite a stabbing, and I would be a little concerned, too, about this person running around.
I mean, his internal organs, if they're still okay, then it's pure luck.
Right. Sisko says that a Federation magistrate wants Molly to go to a special care center on Dalvos Prime for evaluation. The chief knows what that means. Once Molly goes to a place like that, she's never coming out. He feels sure that Molly's best chance of recovery is at home with her parents. In her holding cell, Molly is predictably not responding well to confinement.
Yeah.
She throws herself against the force field over and over, so the chief yells to have it turned off, and then Bashir rushes in and sedates Molly.
So the note in here is, according to the writers, Molly's fear of captivity is based on a real syndrome suffered by dolphins, known as capture shock. When a dolphin is trapped, there's a 50-50 chance it will simply die from the act of being trapped.
Oh, wow.
The mere concept of confinement literally kills it, which is why Bashir is so quick to sedate Molly. He is worried that her reaction to captivity could literally harm her in and of itself.
Oh, yeah. He's like, a lot of the things Molly has been doing remind me of dolphins.
Yeah, it's exactly dolphin. Like, she practically has a dorsal fin.
Uh-huh. She likes to play with big beach balls.
Jump through hoops and things.
So Bashir sedates her, but he says they can't just keep sedating her every time she gets agitated. That's how you wind up with a dart addiction.
Yeah, I was like, I mean, you could, cryo freeze her or something. That
I don't know if that really solves anything, but...
Well, I mean, it would solve, O'Brien's like, what happens when they put her on a transport, huh?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, yeah, don't have her awake for that.
True. Maybe give her a mild sedative for that. Dax comes home and finds Worf upset and embarrassed. He was playing with Kiriyoshi, and Kiriyoshi was running around and hit his head on the coffee table. Worf gives himself a failing grade on the imagined fatherhood worthiness test and leaves so he doesn't have to bear the shame of looking Yoshi in the eye.
I like Jadzia is just like, dude, this stuff happens. I've been a parent like 7 times or whatever. And as a parent, I'm like, oh yeah, no, that stuff totally happens.
Yep.
Kids be crazy, man.
So Miles and Keiko discuss what's to be done with Molly. Miles says the only option might be to let them take her away, but Keiko can tell he's scheming something. After she presses for a little bit, he admits he has a plan to take Molly back to the planet. To keep the long arm of the law from finding her, he'll send her back through the time portal, which is presumably just sitting around unsupervised.
Yeah, I mean, now we're done with it now, so
yeah.
No one else would be interested.
As time portals built by long-lost civilizations often do.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, time portal, interesting. It's like they call up the archaeologists, like, we found this time portal, and they're like,
We'll put you on the wait list.
Did you find some arrowheads by the time portal, too? And then, when they've sent Molly back, the chief will destroy the time portal so nobody can find her. Unless they use one of the 800 other time travel methods that exist in this universe.
I love how they both conclude that this is the only way.
Right.
And I'm just like, you guys are real bad parents.
Yeah.
Like there's lots of other possibilities. You're like, okay, she needs wide open spaces. I'll take a leave of absence from Starfleet and we'll move somewhere with wide open spaces where she can't bother anyone.
Right. We'll go to, if the law is a problem, we'll find some nice planet that doesn't have extradition with the Federation.
Yeah.
And we'll just live out a nice, happy life there. Or if she has to go back in time to that exact planet, maybe one of us could go with her.
Or both of us could go with her. Like, yeah. Why are we sending her back alone? Like, it's the worst parenting I've ever seen in my life, basically.
Nobody seems to bring up any other options. It's like we could Swiss Family Robinson it. We could bring like tricorders and phasers and tents and maybe a little portable replicator.
You get some replicator action for sure.
Maybe like a communication device, and we can talk to all the 300 years ago civilizations. But, no. Yeah, but anyway, they'll send her back through the portal. Then presumably she'll live a long, happy, comfortable life alone in the wilderness. Sounds plausible. O'Brien puts his plan into motion. He goes down to the holding cells and tells the guard Odo told him to get Molly back to the cargo bay. But the guard doesn't buy it for even a single second. O'Brien considers using the old back rub ruse.
I mean, it's really effective,
right?
To be fair.
As we've seen, you just got to be like, oh, my back. Oh, I need a back rub. But he's just like, screw it, and just darts the guard.
Not dart, it's a hypo spray, but...
Sure, same concept. Miles and Keiko try to rush Molly to a runabout, but they're stopped. By Jones.
By freaking Jones, man.
He's the Jean Valjean of Deep Space Nine.
Like everyone else is looking the other way, and Jones is on it.
Right. Yeah,
he's bucking for that promotion.
It's pretty clear. It's like, okay, look, let's just let's sit back and let this thing that has to happen. But Jones is like, no, she broke the law.
Not on my watch.
Yes. But yeah, Miles is like, I should have known. We never had a chance with the great Jones on the case. So Odo shows up and is very disappointed. If anybody can break a prisoner out and get them off the station, it should be the chief.
That may be my favorite moment where like Odo is clearly on your side. And he's just like, jeez. Like I'm disappointed in how poorly you did breaking the law and like sneaking off the station. Like, come on, you're better than this, man.
Well, I mean, normally he would have gotten away with it, but just that Jones.
Yeah, I like the note in here that this statement by Odo may have been a reference to when O'Brien assisted Tosk in escaping and evading the hunters in captive pursuit.
Oh, yeah. But annoyed that he has to resort to doing this, Odo opens the door to the runabout and tells them to go. Back at the unsupervised time portal, Miles gets the portal working while Keiko shows Molly the survival kit she prepared for her. It's got a knife and a blanket. And here's Loopy. She'll be your Wilson.
Yeah, basically.
Miles opens the time portal, figuring it should send Molly right back to the time they grabbed her from. Because I, so far, have had lots of success correctly aiming this time portal.
Yeah, no, he's got it dialed in perfect.
They share an emotional goodbye where Molly says, "Star's your home." I guess explaining to herself why at least one of her parents isn't coming back with her. With, like we said, a tent and a tricorder and stuff.
Yeah, it's hard to wrap your brain around. She has to come up with some sort of reason why her parents would abandon her a second time.
She's been confused about it the whole trip there. She's like, what? And O'Brien says, yes, whenever you look up at the stars, that's where we'll be, watching you. So, okay, whatever. Molly says, Molly loves you, and goes back through the portal. And then a relatively fucked up thing happens. So once she's through the portal, Molly finds her younger self in the cave, alone and afraid, and wanting to go back to Mommy and Daddy. Older Molly thinks, oh, well, this is an easy fix. I'll just send this Molly back to Mommy and Daddy, and they'll be happy, and I'll live happily ever after here all by myself. So she sends Molly back through the portal, and then immediately and unceremoniously gets erased from existence.
I do like that the episode, the writers want to make this explicit that this is what happened.
Right.
You could have just had Molly go back and be happy, and people would have been like, oh man, I wonder if maybe somehow older Molly, is okay. But no, they're like, oh, no. We need to show you. She's gone. Right. She did.
Yeah, and I think I was just trying to figure out, it's like, why did they do this? And I think it's just because they wrote themselves into a corner earlier with why didn't they just try again and get the younger Molly back? So I guess they're like, oh, I guess we have to commit to the rule we set up where if a younger Molly goes back, then this Molly will stop existing.
It's a good thing that it was the moment before O'Brien shot the phaser at the portal.
Yeah, right. He's just about to pull the trigger when Molly steps out, which could have been a horrible, horrible tragedy.
Oh, yeah.
And also, I was like, don't they want to wait for a little bit, just to make sure that everything's okay and she doesn't need to come back out? She comes back out and there's like, oh my god, there's a giant bear in there. Can we wait a little bit? Or something like that.
Now, see, my thing was, for all we know, over the 10 years she's been living back there, she might have, built up her own, Swiss Family Robinson treehouse and stuff. Mm. And then you send her back to the wrong time, and all of that stuff she spent 10 years, collecting is gone.
Right.
That would suck.
Yeah, she goes back through the portal. She's like, where's all my stuff?
My bed that I made here, much more comfortable than, that tree they had me sleeping in. That's the real reason I wanted to come back. I missed my, fluffy bed of animal skins.
So back on the other side of the portal, he's about to shoot it. Younger Molly steps out. Keiko and Molly are overjoyed to have their little girl back and don't stop to consider the implications of what just happened, and I don't blame them. And then we gotta wrap up the Orphan baby story, where Dax says she dropped Yoshi off back with his family, and she apologized for the coffee table incident, and they said not to worry about it and invited them to dinner. And also, Dax wants to know what gung 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 means, because Yoshi was saying it over and over, indicating that Worf made an impression on him. Worf is very happy about this and says, see, I am good with babies. And Dax is like, yeah, you showed me. And then they kiss. Then we get a final scene where the writers make a feeble attempt to make the thing that just happened okay. So apparently O'Brien didn't calibrate the portal correctly and wound up sending older Molly back to the same time she went to when she was little. We could have figured that out.
Yeah, no, I got that.
They say that Sisko had promised to put in a word to Starfleet for all the crimes they committed. And since Sisko is the messiah of an entire planet, they'll probably just let him have his way.
I mean, honestly, they're in the middle of a war.
Right.
There's bigger fish to fry at this point.
We're just going to give you time served from the time you were in the 20 years of psychic prison.
Oh, yeah, really. That should count for a lot, honestly.
Young Molly wants to know if she'll see the girl who found her again, because she was nice. And Keiko's just like, not for a while.
Someday you look in the mirror and she'll be there.
Yeah. Miles hopes that when older Molly sent younger Molly back through the portal, she on some level understood that she was going home herself. On a really, really abstract level.
Yeah.
To the point of being pretty much meaningless. Then young Molly shows her parents a picture she drew, which looks a lot like the one older Molly drew, anthropomorphized landscape and everything. Miles and Keiko look at each other like this must mean something. Like the soul of older Molly now inhabits younger Molly or something like that.
Nah.
So they smile and they hug Molly, making each other a wordless promise to never speak or think about any of this again. The end.
Yep. Problem fixed forever.
Right. No need to ever worry about it again.
Nope. There's no more notes except for a note about the title, so we can
jump right into reviews.
Yeah. What did you think of, I almost said Orphan's Children. Times Orphan.
Orphan's Children. Orphans can have children.
Yeah, they totally can.
This episode, I just don't get much out of it. I mean, we got some good O'Brien and Keiko acting showcase, like I said, but I feel like the sci-fi concept is pretty weak. The whole thing that's going on is so full of holes, like we've pointed out. Like it's a Swiss cheese of a plot. I guess it's not horrible, but I mean, I guess the Dax and Worf story is kind of cute. I don't know. I feel like they could have done that in fewer beats, though. But I guess they needed all that to fill in those 9 missing minutes.
Yeah, exactly. It's like no fewer beats. We got 9 minutes to fill.
Yeah, I don't know. Just something about this whole concept really bothers me. Like, again, we have a time portal sitting around on a planet. Nobody seems to like be interested in that at all. They make kind of this attempt to reintegrate Molly into society, then they send her back in time without considering any other options. It's just the plot really, it's hard to find a way to like summarize this plot without it sounding kind of like either dumb or like horrible. So I mean, they could have, I don't know if we're going to see Molly again, but they could have just sent her back in time, and that could have been the end of Molly. Or they could have done something, right? They could have done something and kind of committed to something, or I don't know. This kind of cheap way that they reset it all back to the way it was at the end, at the expense of this kind of new character we met. Like, like we said, they kind of children have timed it. So, I don't know. It doesn't like make me super mad, but it just, there's something unsatisfying about it. And I'm also just not really engaged by this story of like feral wild Molly. So, for me, it's just kind of a little under the line at a lieutenant.
Okay.
What do you think?
So, I don't like the episode. But it goes beyond that. I've mentioned before that there are some episodes of Star Trek that, or maybe things in general, but we're specifically talking about Deep Space Nine. There's at least one episode of Deep Space Nine that we've come across before that I'm like, it's not just that I don't like this episode. I dread having to rewatch this episode when it's like coming up in the lineup. And like it was the episode with the baby Jem'Hadar last time. That I'm just like, this is this episode that I dread having to watch again because I don't like it that much. This one goes even beyond that episode. Like it's been a while since we last recorded. To pull back the veil some for the listeners. I had a convention that I was at for like a week, and then we've been busy at work or whatever. So
yeah,
but before we went to the convention, I'd already been putting off watching this episode. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to be on a plane for a few hours. Let me just download the episode on Paramount Plus. And when I'm in the plane, I'll button down and watch it. Could not bring myself to. I ended up watching like half of a movie I'd already seen. What was it? It was a recent movie. Anyway, doesn't.
You gotta tell us so you can spoil it.
It was Beetlejuice.
Oh, don't spoil that because I haven't seen it.
I ended up watching half of Beetlejuice on the plane, and listening to a podcast rather than watch the episode. And then after we came back, we were at the convention for we were in Salt Lake City for, I think, 5 days. Came back, didn't watch it on the flight back. Have to drive back from Dallas. And I was like, Fletcher might want to record this tomorrow or something. And it's been 2 weeks that I should have watched this episode. Fine. Maybe if I play it while I'm driving and I mostly just listen to it, it'll be fine. And my wife's in the car and she's never seen this. I made her watch through a couple of seasons of Deep Space Nine and she just didn't really get into it.
Sure.
But I'm mostly listening to this episode. And at various times as the episode continues, she's reading a book or something, but still half hearing the episode. And she several times is like, what? What the heck is this about? This is just a bad episode. Why? Why would they and then we get to the end with they're going to send her back to time. She's like, these are the worst parents I've ever seen.
Right.
This is a terrible episode. Why are you even listening to this? And so this is just quite possibly my least favorite episode of Deep Space Nine. And I can't put my finger, aside from all the stuff we've mentioned, all the holes that you can poke in this episode, beyond the horrible, horrible parenting decisions that are being made right and left, I think at the core, I'm not a huge fan, and we've talked about it before, I'm not a huge fan of O'Brien Must Suffer.
Sure.
Especially there are times where they just pushed it too far, as we've talked about before. In that episode where he was in, mine prison for 20 years or whatever.
That's definitely the shining example.
Yeah. I think we both came to a point where it was just I get what they're going for, but you've just pushed it too far. This is not fun anymore. This is unpleasant. And so having to, and they extended Orion Must Suffer to his wife when she was inhabited by a Pa Wraith. And you're okay, well, that's kind of fair game. Keiko's had weird stuff happen to her before even.
Right.
But then it's now we're going to take his innocent 8-year-old child and put her through 10 years of hell to keep this O'Brien Must Suffer thing going. And I'm this is not just a bridge too far. You've gone beyond the pale at this point. I really, really don't like it. I might well say I hate it. So I honestly, many times during those 2 weeks considered, maybe I just won't watch the episode and we'll record and I'll just, go from memory on this because I don't want to watch it. So I don't know that there's another episode of any Star Trek show that I feel this strongly about. So I think I have to give it an ensign. But I'm going to make Fletcher come up with a new image again, and we're going to give it Chief Petty Officer. But no, No.
Chief Petty Officer somehow sounds better. So
it does sound better. You're right. So yeah, no, this is an ensign for me, 100%.
All right. Your least favorite episode coming so soon on the heels of your most favorite episode.
I know, right? It's weird how that works out.
I thought your complaint would be that, we've sort of in the past, that was the problem with the O'Brien prison episode, was they just went too hard with the emotion.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of that. I think that was your complaint with The Visitor and stuff like that. Because I was thinking it's they're trying to sell the emotion so hard in this episode, and I just could not care less. Colin Meaney, Rosalind Chow were giving it their all. That guest actor was really trying to sell it, and I was just I was not ever buying it for a single second. I was no. Nope.
I almost want to blame it on since becoming a parent, the idea of torturing children basically hits me harder than it did before.
Sure.
But I hated this episode even before that. So
right. Yeah, and I'm sure if you're imagining it's one of your own kids.
Yeah.
There are so many obvious alternatives to what's going on here. Yeah, just the fact that there's I guess we got to send her back in time to the Jumanji world or whatever.
I didn't think about that, but it is kind of like that, yeah. Older Molly's not as fun as Robin Williams, though.
Yeah. And you also brought up an interesting point, which is Didn't the exact opposite thing happen to Keiko one time?
Yeah. There's actually a note in here that I didn't feel was interesting enough to read, where it was just like, this is the second time that Miles and Keiko have had to deal with the difference in Keiko and Molly's respective biological ages being narrowed.
Yes, interesting way to phrase that, but
Yeah,
because wasn't she one of the people who got kidified in that one episode?
In Rascals, yep. Her and Guinan and Roe and Picard.
Oh, I just remember that little Picard.
Look, Rascals is actually kind of a fun episode. It's ridiculous that the Ferengi can take over the Enterprise D so easily, but it's like a fun little. It's a dumb sci-fi concept, really, but they have fun with it.
Sure. Like
Picard gets to pretend to be Riker's son and throw a little fit and stuff. It's amusing. This is not in any way amusing. Right. This episode.
Yeah, adult to kid, kind of amusing. Kid to adult, harder to execute. The
only fun part, and I didn't even mention the B story because it doesn't stick out to me that much. I agree that I mean it's kind of cute, except for the fact that Worf is either Worf has created this thing in his head, or as Dax says at the end, she's actually been testing him, and either way, it's it kind of sucks the fun out of it.
I don't know. I think I like to imagine that this is all in Worf's head, but just Dax knows him so well that she's willing to roll with it.
I feel like it could have been fun if Dax was like, "Oh yeah, you take care of the baby. Let's see how good a job you do. Maybe we want to have kids at some point." Wink, wink. And she's playing with him and claiming that it's a test. It could have been fun.
Sure,
but instead it's like Worf is tormenting himself and actually kind of by proxy tormenting Jadzia with what he's putting himself through. And it's not fun. The only fun moment is when Odo's like, "I'm so disappointed in you, Chief. You should have been able to do this." That's the one moment of the episode that I enjoyed.
Yeah. I don't know. I just think Worf and Dax just being such different people and kind of finding new ways to tolerate each other. I don't know. I find it kind of amusing. But,
okay. Fair.
So anyway, what do you think about the title, Time's Orphan?
So the one note is the working title of the episode was Out of Time. Which, when you think about it as I'm running out of time, it doesn't make any sense. If you think about it she gets pulled out of time,
oh sure,
then maybe it makes slightly, maybe that would be a little more fitting. I don't think that was a good title.
Because when you hear that, the very first thing you think of is the first meaning. So you're like, who's out of time?
Yeah, right. Or I think of that Johnny Depp movie, Nick of Time.
Oh, yeah.
When you say that for some reason, but Time's Orphan.
O'Brien has to assassinate the president of the Federation, or else they'll
kill his family. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I get what they're going for. She essentially becomes an orphan by getting sent 300 years in the past, right? And has to grow up with no parents. It's a time travel story. She's kind of orphaned in a weird way, but not really.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it fits the episode. There's enough, they used words that connect to the plot of the episode enough that I can, connect the two.
Sure.
I don't know that I feel like it's super clever or anything, but it's fine.
Yeah. I think it has a nice classic sound to it, a nice original series sound to it.
It feels like the title of an old school sci-fi story to me. Yeah. So yeah, I get what you mean.
I don't know if it's super memorable or anything like that, but
yeah.
I think it's tolerable. So
yeah, it's fine.
I can't complain about it.
I mean, given how much I dislike the episode, the title's right. It's fine.
The stink episode. Okay, well, you have any final thoughts before we wrap that up?
Just glad to be past this episode. I've been worried about it for a while. It finally happened. We're moving on, so I don't have to watch it again anytime soon.
Can't wait to hear all the comments about how this is everybody's favorite episode and it's so important and meaningful to them and stuff like that.
It's I remember when I got sent back in time and lost my parents, and this episode really helped me through that.
This exact same thing happened to me, and it really helped me process those emotions.
It has a 6.1 out of 10 on IMDb, so I guess It's not good, even by IMDb standards for Deep Space Nine episodes, but it's not like terrible.
Sure.
We've had a couple of worse ones. There was a 5.7 or a 5.8 or something.
Yeah, I mean, even the very last episode, Prophet and Lace. For me, this is nowhere near as bad as Prophet and Lace, which was just an assault on my sensibilities, an affront to like decency and I don't know, modern thinking. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess this is like like 2 episodes in a row for me of Ensign, isn't it? Yeah, Prophet and Lace, and then this one. But yeah, for me, like I think I said at the end of that one, like Prophet and Lace is one that I'm like, I mean, I could watch it again. It's not going to get better when I watch it again, but I mean, it's fine.
Sure.
This one, I'm like, I don't want to watch it again, so it is worse for me. And even though they both got an Ensign.
Yeah. But yeah, so yeah, we'll call it there. So that's our discussion of Time's Orphan. Thanks for listening. If you like that, maybe you'll like our discussion of Children of Time, an equally messed up time travel episode.
Yeah, let's you know how when they collect some like episodes on a DVD and release like the similar episodes, this is the messed up time travel shit like DVD.
The Time Travel Murder series.
Yeah.
Or what was the one where Chief O'Brien kept jumping back and forth in time? Was that Whispers?
That was Whispers, I think. Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, go listen to those reviews, which you can find wherever you're listening to this. All of our past episodes should be wherever you're listening to this. And if you're listening in the future, maybe future episodes too. Maybe we're done with the whole series by the time you're listening to this. Who knows?
Yeah, tell us what we're doing next. If we've abandoned YouTube entirely at that point. Future
Send
people.
us a message back in time. Warn us about the things to come.
Yeah, that way then we won't do those things, and that will never have existed, and it'll be great.
Yep, exactly. We can erase these alternate versions of ourselves.
Yep.
And if you want to leave us a comment, you can do that on YouTube. My name is Fletcher. About to say goodbye is Data.
See ya.
We look forward to seeing you next week on Undeclared Bajor. But remember, whenever you look up at the stars, know that we're there watching you.
Yeah, not creepy at all.
Mm-hmm.